Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for joining me here today. In today's video, I want to give you 3 tips to help support you if you are wanting to make some sort of a career change, maybe even start a side business to work on and build while you're in your current jobs with a plan of actually exiting maybe the corporate world. First, I want to talk about what's been going on. We've all heard now the Great Resignation. And the first kind of what I would consider the first phase of it has really kind of run its course in many ways, but it's going to continue to evolve. And we have to question at some point what's really going on. Well, what's really going on is the world is undergoing a massive shift right now. People are changing since things started changing on this earth in March, February of 2020. People have been looking at their priorities, where they're happy, where they're not. What do they really, really want moving forward? I mean, career change is not a new concept for sure, but we're going to start to see it happen more and more. And we're going to start to see people who are in more than middle to high, management positions who maybe didn't switch jobs in that first kind of round because they've got a career that's more established. They're starting to look at what they want next. And many of them are actually thinking, maybe this is you actually starting your own business. You're thinking, I want more purpose in my life. I want to have more impact. Now, regardless of which category you fall in, this video has information not just for a certain age range at all. It really is for anybody who's looking to make that career change. But I just wanted to kind of give that bit of an overview at the beginning here to understand that we're just at the beginning, and this is really, it's an evolutionary change we're going through in a big way. And in that people are looking at really what they want at a deeper level. And it's not just about collecting a paycheck. And they're looking at their well-being and what they want for their life at a broader level. And before I get into the 3 tips, I also want to mention what can be an actual downside, just so you're aware of it. It's really important, I think, to know not only the tips that can help you move forward, but where people can get really, really, stuck. And one of the reasons why I really want to start sharing more of these tips is this is what can happen, and I've seen this, is you can realize you're not happy in your career, your job, your profession, whatever that is. And so you start looking for where to go next, what to do, and you hit a roadblock of some sort. Or maybe you even decided this is what I'm going to do in my, I think I want to do this. And you start moving in that direction and you hit a challenge somewhere along the way. Because you are probably still in a job, you are earning an income. When we hit those roadblocks, it's sometimes easier to pull right back and just go, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just going to stay where I am. It's fine. And then 6 months rolls by and you realize you're not fine. And so you start pursuing this other thing, whatever that might be. And then you hit some more roadblocks and you get discouraged. And because you do have this other job, this other career that's taking your time and energy, it kind of feels like too much. The problem with this is this can go on for a really long time. And it is a cycle. It doesn't actually go away. If you've got that real urge that you're not in the right place, you are not in alignment, you are not resonating with what you're doing anymore, it doesn't just go away because you've grown as a person. That job, that career, that profession may have fit you at some point. It may have suited you just fine. But once you've made a shift, you can't go back. There's this thing, I was going to say it. You can't unknow what you know. So if you know this is not where you're supposed to be, you can pretend for a while that it's okay. But ultimately, if you've already had that awareness, you can't go back. It just doesn't work that way. And I share this because I really want to arm you with tips and tricks and to fully understand that if you need support, get support. Whatever you need to help you move forward, because you don't want to go, 5 more years down the road if you can help it. And then be starting now 5 years later when you could have been working on something for 5 years or a year later, or whatever that might look like. Or worse, end your career and you've settled for something that you really weren't happy with and have a regret down the road. And I will talk a little bit about my Pathway to Purpose program at the very end of this video. So if it's something you feel like you want support on, I will share a bit about that. But without further ado, I'm going to share my 3 tips. And these are just 3 for today's video. There's certainly more, and I'll be sharing more and more as time goes on. The first tip is, to create a professional, a work life, a career that you love requires you to know you. What often people do is they look outwardly. They go, okay, well, this is maybe what I like to do or I'm good at. And so they start to look outward at what's available. They can get very frustrated and can feel quite demotivating. It can be very discouraging to see what's out there if all you're looking at is, well, this is all I've done, this is what I'm good at, and therefore these are only my options. So when we're looking for something that we really love, it really does require us to dig a little deeper at ourselves. So this is what I mean. Instead of looking and saying to yourself, what do I like to do? It's a great question to ask, absolutely. But the problem is sometimes people don't go deep enough. So to give you an example, you might say, well, I really like sales. There's a reason you like sales. The reason you like sales is because it gives you a certain feeling. What is that feeling that you're getting from it? You wouldn't like it unless it's giving you that, right? So what's the feeling? And then the next question will be, what are the other ways I can get that feeling? So maybe the feeling that you like to get from sales is influence. But what are the other ways you might be able to have that experience of influence? Because if you limit yourself just to sales, so if you say, I like sales, it's just like you're kind of putting yourself in this little container here, right? It's just sales. So you start looking for sales jobs. But if you dig a little deeper and you discover you actually like influence, that opens it up. If you can get that same experience another way, you're still getting the result you want, which is the feeling. Or maybe it's an industry you like. Why do you like it? What is it about that industry? What parts of your day do you enjoy? And again, it's not just about the task. Often people go to, what are the tasks I enjoy? It's the deeper level. What is it about those tasks? What is the feeling that you have? And how can that be applied elsewhere to expand? Because that's really what you want to do, is you want to expand your options, expand your view, expand what you're capable of doing. Because if we just look at, say, sales, that's really singular. That is just one thing. But if we broaden it up, the opportunities that you have available to you really open up. And that's when it can get more exciting. You're not closing yourself down, but you're opening yourself up. Who do you want to become as a person? What impact do you want to have? It's useful to sometimes look outside. I'm not saying don't look outside to see what's available, but don't stop there. It's really looking at, what are the feelings I want to have? What are the experiences? What are my values? That's a really great one to look at too. And what are the values I want to embody more? I talk to people, a lot. And one of the things that's really facing a lot of people, and they're seeing a lack of integrity in the organizations they work for. If integrity is really important to you, that's something that needs to be considered moving forward. People are tired of just watching things slide and allowing things to go by the wayside, right? And that's a lot of what we're going to see when sort of their middle to more senior managers start exiting their jobs and maybe starting their own business. They're tired of upholding policies and things like that are out of alignment with their own personal integrity and ethics. So looking at our own personal values, and this is where a lot of the bulk of the work is, to be really truthful with you. So don't bypass this. If you're looking for a career change, don't just start looking. Stop and spend the time going inward. Ask yourself empowering questions. Ask yourself lots of questions. So that was tip number one. Tip number two is be willing to look at some of the beliefs you've created. We all have beliefs that are holding us back. And what we do over time is if we've created a belief, we will look for evidence to support that belief. And we do that long enough, that belief becomes a truth. And when something becomes a truth for us, it is harder to switch and change. So being aware that there are likely things that are holding you back and being open to having them be challenged. I have seen people make massive, massive shifts from changes in perspectives and their beliefs. I mean, I know I've had it personally with me where I literally go, oh my gosh, I didn't see that. It's usually someone else pointing it out, usually when it's those really, really big ones. But sometimes it's just your own, like a belief like, I can't get paid for doing what I love. Now, look at all the people who are getting paid doing what they love. There's a lot of people, right? You look at athletes, you look at actors and actresses, musicians, a lot of artists. Now you might think, well, they're the random few, but are they? Or is that a story you're telling yourself? I really, really believe there is a strong belief out there that people can't get paid doing what they love. Here's the thing. We all have these unique gifts and talents. They're not random. They're not random. They're within us for a reason. We're supposed to use them. Otherwise, why would we have them? And here's another trick. Sometimes your greatest gifts can feel like your biggest flaws. I just did a post actually today on LinkedIn. If you're following me on LinkedIn, one of my biggest, I think I call it my superpower. I felt like it was the biggest flaw for so many years until I really had to have a perspective shift on it. This is actually something that I can really utilize, and I do now. So be willing and open to really blast through some of these beliefs that you may hold very dear. And tip number 3 is keep your circle small. And what I mean by this is if you're thinking of making a career change, maybe starting a business, be mindful of who you tell. Here's the thing. Anytime you tell somebody, a dream that you might be having, and this is really any dream or, something where you're just at the beginning stages of it, you're not fully anchored in it, you're just really kind of testing the waters. And this is often what happens when people are looking at a career change. They start to look at their colleagues and talk to their colleagues about what they're thinking of doing. But if they haven't made a career change themselves, they may not be the best people to talk to, right? And especially if they are someone who is really unhappy in their career, but has chosen to stay. What happens is when we share our dreams and our hopes and all these things that we might be working on with people who are not in that space, they project their own fears, their own insecurities onto us. And they may be very, very well-intentioned, right? But they could have a real fear of money. They could have a real fear of a lot of different things. And they could then share those fears with you. And if you're already just kind of at the beginning stages, you don't have your feet fully planted yet. You're in this new space. It's kind of like this thing. Do you talk to somebody about your romantic relationship who's, been wildly unsuccessful in relationships? No, you don't. But it's funny how in other areas we can do that sometimes. So if you're looking at making a career change, really be mindful about who you're sharing, because they can really throw you off. It can really throw you off your game. And again, it's not intentional. It doesn't have to be intentional at all. It can just be somebody who's not seeing it. Or here's another thing. Say you're somebody who's mid-level career, who's worked your way up the corporate ladder, you've got a great job, a great paying job, to somebody who maybe doesn't have what you have. This could look completely crazy. They could be a little bit envious of you. And here you are going, well, I'm not really happy. And they're thinking to themselves, God, I wish I had what you had, right? So just take care, hold this close to yourself and get support. Yes, absolutely. Because we really do want to make a change, as effectively as possible, but also as quickly as possible, right? Because you are also doing another job at the same time often, and that can be a lot. So, pick up as many tools, as tricks, as many strategies, everything you possibly can from the right people. But sharing it with your closest friends or your closest colleagues who've not gone through something like this can really damage your self-esteem and your self-confidence moving forward. So just to be mindful. And again, it's not about blaming. It's not about, they're not worthy of sharing your dreams with. Not at all. It's just you don't want them to project their fears and insecurities, if they've got them, onto you, right? So those were my 3 tips that I wanted to share today. And I said I was going to mention a bit about the program that I've got. It's called the Pathway to Purpose. It is a one-on-one program that I work with people. It's not a group program where we meet weekly and I take you through a whole series and a whole program to get you basically from, you start at a place where you're not really sure what you want to do, to the end where we've actually figured out what that is. We've created a plan and you're actually executing on that plan. So I do have some spots open right now. If you are watching this on LinkedIn, I'm going to be putting this video on LinkedIn. You can DM me, or I'm going to put my website below, which is AndreaHorvath.com, or you can also email me, Andrea@AndreaHorvath.com, and we can book a consultation session and just discuss where you're at, and I can give you my honest assessment of what I think is the next best step for you, whether it's working with me or something else that might be better suited for you, or even looking at timing of things. So if you do need some support, please do reach out. But I hope this video is helped. Now, also, if there is something you would love to hear me talk about, you're like, I have this burning question, I want to know more about this, please also reach out in all those methods that I mentioned already. I'm happy to create content, and that's my whole intention here, is to really help and support anybody who wants to make this shift. So do reach out if you've got suggestions, things you really do want to hear. I am creating videos weekly, so there will, I'm sure, be an opportunity for me to share these things with you. So I hope this video is helpful for you, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.